Amazon is the way that they've changed the consumer's perception of delivery speed.
Hmm.
Because for the most part, we ship large, heavy products that have to ship on a large truck,
Right.
and they don't move that quickly. And everyone's used to 2-day delivery now with Prime, and I have to tell them, well, it'll be a week or two,
Hmm.
and getting people to appreciate that and understand why has been difficult.
Yes, and I think that is a huge shift that we've changed is that everyone wants everything instantly. And that instant gratification and the Amazon Prime effect, if you will, because everyone is so used to just going online and ordering something and having it available at their doorstep. Then, the next day, even in some cases, and 2 days, pretty standard now. And I think it's difficult, but I think what you said is the key there, that you need your customers to understand why it's different with your product. And the truth of the matter is, if you ordered something that was that big and heavy, most likely on Amazon, they wouldn't guarantee a lot of the 2-day shipping either. So it's a little bit of a misnomer, and people forget that. And I think especially your product's probably not as much, but around the holidays, there's always this, well, I can just get it on Amazon. I don't have to go to the store last minute. They'll ship it in 2 days. And then there's all kinds of, Amazon not being able to deliver, especially when it's through their third party and not from them directly. So, I'd be interested in other people's thoughts if they've had experiences on this. I think my initial thought would be what you're doing is a start. That explanation, this is why it takes longer from us, but really communicating that up front and trying to proactively engage with your customers and saying, we know that you might be able to get it faster somewhere else, but if you bought this on Amazon or you bought this from any big box, you're not going to get the same service. You're not going to get the same guarantees. If it arrives and something's wrong or you need help, they're not going to follow up. They're going to drop it at your doorstep and leave it. And, you have no real person to talk to versus a business like yours where there is someone on the other end. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's one of our big things that we do try to differentiate on is the service aspect. We
Mm-hmm.
have our phone number on every page of our website. We do about 40% of our orders over the phone. And, when you're dealing with more technical products, that certainly is important. But we definitely know that there are people calling us, helping them choose what they need, and then they go complete that purchase elsewhere. And that certainly hurts.
Yes, which is frustrating as well as obviously hits your bottom line ultimately. And I think, the other thing you can do is that constant follow up without being too salesy and too aggressive, um, but following up if someone drops off during the purchase process. Can we help you? Is it about price, and is there a huge price differential? If there isn't, a lot of times what we recommend for customers is to just price match. And you can't be, you're not ever going to beat the price, but if you can match it in order to keep that customer and then show them the service that you're going to give them versus if they just bought it elsewhere, then hopefully you gain that customer for life and you can kind of write it off as a marketing cost. It's not sustainable, but also most people won't ask for that. And it's amazing how many people would walk into a store and walk out and be like, oh, I could get it cheaper on Amazon. Whereas if they just said, oh, it's, $5.99 here and it's $3.99 on Amazon for $2. And obviously your products aren't going to be a bigger price point than that. But for a lot of things, the store would match it happily or should match it happily and not lose the sale versus letting them walk out the door. So it's an interesting, the way people think is interesting. Like they wouldn't always even consider asking for that, but if they did, a store probably would give it to them. So if you can find a way to communicate that you would match that price if that's doable on your end, or that, you would offer follow-up service or whatever else it may be that gives them that value for the price instead of going elsewhere, then it's worth doing in most cases too.
Are there questions that you would suggest the business owners ask the customers in advance? So maybe, if the customer isn't inclined to say, can you match this price? and like Mickey was saying, if they just kind of decide to go elsewhere, like what are some strategies that the business owner can take ahead of time to, make sure that they are kind of addressing any concerns that the customer may have?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think proactively you could ask them, are you looking at different models? Are you looking at different price points? What is your price range? And then if you know what they're looking at, you can do a little bit of a comparison too. It's very hands-on and time consuming. So there's the balance and the trade-off of, is this worth the effort and the time to get this sale? If we're going to lose a little bit off the top on the price, or the time to do the research to see what it's being offered for elsewhere. And I think that's the hard part too, is staying up to date, because the prices on Amazon for everything are constantly in flux and being played with, and Amazon plays with their pricing and with their keywords and what pops up and the most popular items and who has the best reviews. So there's that algorithm on their end, which is intentionally hard for anyone outside to follow and figure out what the price is going to be. But you can stay on top of it, as much as you can. And then, too, if a customer is asking on a certain model or a certain product, okay, this is what it's going for. Should we just proactively match it up front, or should we offer some sort of price guarantee? And a lot of businesses will do that. Is just say, if you find this elsewhere, at a certain price that's less than ours, we'll just retroactively credit you back the difference. And that is enough for many customers to assure them that, okay, I'm going to get this service, I'm going to get the guarantees with this company that I trust, but I know I don't have to worry about having saved that money elsewhere.
Yeah. And if I can ask a question, this is Helen Collier out of Houston. I'm a believer that price is never really the issue. I mean, if you have a relationship established, price is out the window. So with that statement, how is it best, or are you seeing best practices for small businesses, say like ours, to get beyond obscurity? Maybe to leverage the social media tools to build that trust, to tell the stories about our businesses in order to minimize somebody coming in just to kick the tire.
Yes, no, that's a great question. And I think there's a lot of different layers of that. I think the first one is the product itself. And like you said, it's usually not about price. That's what people think it's about. And that's kind of where they come in, because again, customers aren't always rational. So they can't always verbalize what it's about. And it's that experience and that trust and that knowing the business, but sometimes they'll see that price and then they go to that immediately and they're like, oh, well, I can save this. And all the other stuff goes out the window. So you have to keep reminding them of all those other things that you're providing. And it comes down to product. It's really hard if you're competing with the same products that you can find on Amazon, Target, Walmart, all those stores. You're never going to win because they have the economies of scale. You can't beat them. So it's almost, you want to get out of that field. So even if it's as simple as a different variation on the product or a different color scheme or something that is unique to you, then it's well worth doing that. And again, that's putting more emphasis on the buying end for you and for your business. But the less it's apples to apples, the better. So if you absolutely have to be competing on those same products, then try to bundle them or package them so it's different. You're not going to go on Amazon and find a package that, say it's summertime, that has your sunscreen and your after sun care and sunglasses and goggles and a swimsuit, whatever it is that's packaged together as a bundle that makes sense for your customer that you can do. And then someone can't come in and say, oh, on Amazon that was priced at $29.99, on your store it's X, because it doesn't exist. And you have that ability where Amazon doesn't. People are picking out individual products. And they might get a recommendation to buy a product with it and bundle it on their end. But if you take that thought out of it, that someone walks in and sees something and it's like, oh, that's great. There's everything I need for s'mores right there. You have the sticks and the marshmallows and the chocolate and the graham crackers done. The price for all of that, they're not going to add it up in their head and then go compare it. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of take that comparison element out somehow. And if you can't necessarily get completely different products or brands, than try to repackage it for people.
Mm. And I wonder too if offering some kind of service as part of the bundle. So Lori Wall, who I see is on the line, I'm actually sitting, she sells ergonomic office equipment, and I am currently sitting at one of her standing desks. But, you know, she and I, obviously because of Intraze, have a relationship too. But if there were some sort of, you know, follow-up call to, or a Skype call to kind of assess the setup. And, you know, so once you get your product, there's like this additional service component to make sure that things are installed correctly. Or do you think that that would be appealing? And it's sort of an illustration of that service going above and beyond, that customer service going above and beyond, and it could maybe help the customer, you know, come back and shop there again. And maybe a little bit, you know, kinder from an expense perspective for the business owner.
Yes. Yeah. I think, you know, you want to be different from Amazon, and that kind of comes into the products. You want to be better than Amazon, and that's a little bit of the service element, the guarantee, the ease of returns, you know, all those things. Amazon will claim that, you know, they guarantee everything, that returns are easy, but there's still that extra effort. You have to go repackage something. You have to email them or call them and get a return slip. You have to ship it back to them. You know, all those things that take time, and people are so trained to have everything immediately and simply, that if you can make any of that easier, if you have the follow-up and the service element, they offer now the Amazon Home Services, and they're trying to add on those elements, but they're not the same as an actual live person who's going to walk you through it, who's going to, you know, show up at your house if you need it. You can call on the phone. So I think, you know, you add in all those things for the person. And like Mickey was saying, you have something that's a very heavy, big product that's being delivered. Once it gets to that person's home, they need someone to help install it. They need someone to explain it. It's not like they just drop it and it's done. So anything you can do to make that experience better, more seamless, easier for the customer, it's an added value that's going to be an incentive for them to buy from you versus.
I got a message from Angela, and I think she has to jump off early, but this may be shifting gears a little bit. We can always come back to this part of the conversation. Her interest is actually in better understanding how best to leverage Amazon as a distribution channel. Is there potential for people to, you know, maybe rather than directly competing, to somehow leverage the success of Amazon?
Yeah, and that's a question I'd be interested in others' answers. So the way I look at it is, you know, like I said before, you want to be better, you want to be different, you want to be yourself, you have a unique brand and personality with your business, and you want to really leverage that because that's part of that whole experience. But at the same time, if you can't beat them, you know, why not join them? And there are benefits. I think that at the distribution level, I've seen clients who have had good luck. You have to be very, very careful about the margins. And so you have to consider those two things. You know, from a margin perspective, is it going to be worth your while to be part of a marketplace on Amazon? And then secondly, is it going to cannibalize your own business? And that's where I get into that, you know, your business has a brand and a personality, and you want to maintain and keep that consistency. Sometimes it makes sense to bring that into the marketplace, and sometimes it makes sense to completely do it under another brand and name and use that as a little bit of a clearinghouse, or even as if you need to clear product out of your inventory, it's sometimes just a different channel, and you can market it a little bit differently and more effectively and get it out of your inventory and warehouse and convert it to cash. So you might be taking a hit, but you would have been putting it on clearance anyways. So why not, you know, simplify it for your end? But I'm curious, have any of you tried that, and how has your experience been?
I can tell you, we've been selling to, well, we were an early marketplace seller. We're a wholesale, primarily company. I mean, we do retail through our own website to consumers, but it's very much under the radar. But we were an early marketplace seller under a facade store name and continue to do that. But then we started selling direct to Amazon. It's probably been 4 or 5 years now. And it is a perilous journey for sure. I can tell you, I mean, we don't have the resources or the money to really automate. I mean, I know that they do a lot of EDI stuff and all that. We're not at that level. So it requires a lot of manpower to sell to Amazon. And normally they'll lure you in and they won't ask for a lot of allowances to start with. And then every year they hammer on you. And for us, like any other big retailer, they begin to add all these other fees, can't scan the barcode fee, late PO acknowledgement fee. And honestly, we are in a spot now where I'm kind of evaluating how we want to move forward with our brand and how best to approach it. Because I honestly think long term we may be better off because we can control our brand name better if we pull back from Amazon to some extent. I mean, we do drop shipping for our customers, but we did away with drop shipping for people who only sell on the Amazon marketplace because it was starting to really kill our retail price out there, and we had very little control over that, and it would just free fall. And Amazon, I understand, is for them, if they look out and they have inventory and the marketplace begins to start dropping that retail price, I mean, their system automatically drops it, and so you can find your retail prices in a free fall. So, we're continuously trying to find ways to manage our brand image because we're kind of a higher end product and play that game with Amazon and the marketplace. So it's definitely not for everybody. I mean, I don't know if that helps at all, but
what
I would
what percentage of your business would you say is coming from Amazon and is coming from other sales channels?
I think at this point now, Amazon probably 35 to 40% of our business. And that's really when Amazon approached us to sell direct to them. I had to have that debate in my head. And what I really saw based on their business practices was that there's no way long-term we're going to beat them. And so I felt like we might as well hook our trailer to them and go along for the ride.
What's your product, Josh?
We do storage and organization products for outdoor sports equipment. So we do bike storage racks, kayak storage, board and ski storage. So our brand name is Gear Up, and we have our MSRPs are anywhere from $200 to $20. We have a broad range of products.
Okay. Yeah, and that's not a surprising experience, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's amazing how sophisticated Amazon is on the back end in terms of, like you were saying, the pricing models and all the algorithms that bump the different listings up. And have you found that it's very much pay to play for your listings to pop up too?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's, the whole margin thing, as a company, we set out to average about 50% margins. And their allowance programs are off your wholesale price. So when we started, I think we were giving them like a 13% in total allowances. And they pay the freight, et cetera. Well, the last couple of years, they've come back and they're trying to beat us up, asking for almost 25% in allowances, which we do not accept.
Yeah.
And they continue to purchase from us. I mean, that that's the one thing I would say is that for those people who get involved with Amazon, don't be afraid to stand your ground, because the reality is they still want to sell your products in most cases. And so we've stood our ground the last few years and just said, no, you know, they want more for damage and return allowances and want more for this and that. And I will also say the most frustrating thing in working with Amazon is that they push all the communication through their vendor portal and emails. And in the last few years, they've actually offshored all of their kind of lower level negotiating to, I would assume, Bangladesh. So there's a communication kind of issue there. And if you ever want to try and get a hold of a buyer, or if you have, in our case, we have accounts receivables issues with them going back 3 or 4 years, where they just unilaterally took allowances that when they pay you, they just take their allowances.
Right. You have no.
Also actually take deductions for allowances they're assuming they're going to get in the future. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. For sure. It's a full-time job almost just to manage. It's a full-time position in your company to manage selling to Amazon.
And I would think, and if other people have experiences, please speak up, unless it's a situation like yours where it's a higher end product, or a situation where it's like a huge mass marketed product that you're getting a next to nothing and reselling, that middle level, it doesn't make a lot of sense for those products, because there's just, you either have to move the volume or you need to have enough ability to mark it up. So it's, you know, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, I think, on that end. But and just in case anyone hasn't heard, has everyone heard the term pay to play? You're hearing it a lot more with Facebook, with all the social media, and with Amazon too. And so that's becoming, if you had your content set up right and your keywords and everything and your reviews were good, you naturally rise to the top of the listing based on the algorithms. But now the entire online world has become very much this pay to play version, where you have to pay for the advertising, you have to pay to be bumped up in the listing. So it's not as unbiased as it used to be. And so that makes it a lot harder too. And that's why you see the most popular items that rise to the top of the listings a lot of times, they're paying for that placement. So it becomes a whole different ball of wax once you get into that, and trying to make sure if your listings, you know, so low on the page or in the feed that people have to scroll down or click through to the next one, at some point you're just lost in the sea of options out there, and you're never going to get seen. And if you're not seen, you're not going to do sales. So it becomes this kind of cycle on the most popular sellers remain at the top because they're the first one people see, and people are a little bit inherently lazy when they're looking through a listing. They kind of go to the first one, the reviews are good, the price is the best price. There's not as much reason for them to scroll down on the listings. So, you know, that's a consideration too, that you have to be constantly thinking about and how you're going to manage that piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone else sold on Amazon? Or
this is Angela. You know, we have in the past, and you know what, and we got off, and then what we're seeing now and why I jumped on the call was because they've, you know, their marketplaces continue to expand. So now they've even entered into the life science medical spaces, which is what I'm in. Okay. And they're using it as, you know, it's become a platform for a lot of organizations, whether they're major teaching institutions or pharmaceutical companies, to purchase their products now. So I just wanted to get some ideas of what people are seeing, because it's one of those things where as a manufacturer, it becomes, even if you don't want to deal with them, having had some experiences in the past, it's becoming something that I see as we're moving forward, we're not going to have that option.
Right. Yeah, it's becoming harder and harder to avoid because they really have dipped their toes into every industry. So it's, I do think it is one of the things you have to consider, like Josh, how do you coexist with them, and what's that right balance for your business, if there is one, and how do you also at the same time compete and not cannibalize your other business, but like Josh was finding, if you need to then back out, how do you do that without hurting your business and your brand as well? And so I think there's a couple questions in here. I'm going to go back to Josh for a second and then see if that helps address Angela's question. But Josh, I'm wondering, have you found the customers that have bought from Amazon, have bought your products from Amazon, have had different experiences than if they bought from one of your retailers?
Yes. So one thing is that we have no control over is Amazon on their returns will tend to rebox stuff, and you'll see this sometimes when you look on Amazon that they have warehouse deals. Well, we don't have any control of that, and in most cases, I don't think they know what's supposed to be in the box, and so we get a lot of calls of missing parts and angry customers because they think that it's us, that we did the packaging of it initially and all that, and that becomes frustrating. I mean, it's not an overwhelming thing. It's not like we're getting hundreds of calls about that a month, but that is certainly an issue. The other thing for us is that we've kind of helped coach, because we sell to a lot of independent bike shops and independent kayak shops. And so the one thing that Amazon is not good at still is providing that personal service. Our product makes a great add-on sale. So if someone buys a kayak or bike, the clerk can say, okay, well, what are you going to do with that when you get it home? And then you have that whole discussion about, well, where are your space options? Mm-hmm. So it's hard because you get so few of your retailers to actually engage you, but we've done things like offered a free pizza lunch or something to, sit and speak with us for 30 minutes in a webinar or something about, hey, here's how you provide that next level service and be competitive, is that consumer walks in and you're not just saying, oh yeah, we've got storage, and what kind of space do you have? Because this fits on the wall, this comes from the ceiling. That's the kind of stuff that Amazon can never do for us. Right. It's out there. And so I would say that those retailers that we have a chance to reach and kind of, listen to what we have to say and learn a little bit about how we look at storage, that gives them an advantage if they can get that consumer into the door. The other thing we've done,
I submit to you, Josh, you're only going to have a few years with that type of service, because as you have, I don't know, what is it, the Amazon Echo, all the Siri and all of that stuff. So just consider that for down the road. Longer
term, we sell to a company called eTrailer, who does a phenomenal job of video review of all their products. And it's a matter of time before that whole deal hits Amazon so that the consumer gets a better experience. But in the short term is at least, if I was coaching our retailers out there and they're wanting to know, well, how can we be different? I mean, that's one way you can be different, is to be an expert in something, because you can't be an expert in everything. And Amazon's never going to be an expert in everything, although they have a better opportunity than, say, a Walmart would at true brick and mortar level. But that's a few things that we've done and seen some differences between actual retail and Amazon. I will tell you, Amazon's definitely hurt the sporting goods retail business for us.
Yes, and I think there's a lot of interesting things from what you've just said. I think one of them, and to Helen's point, that lack of hands-on selling is a huge challenge for everyone, because the more people are online, the less opportunity you have. But I do think there's some really cool things in your space that you can do, because there's now this rise of online services to help with organization and interior design and room planning and being able to lay it all out. And because with your mix of products, you could, you know, physically have your photos within the house boards or within, you know, Pinterest boards with the actual measurements, or what Container Store does with their room layouts. If you contact them, they'll have someone get all the measurements from your closet space and then literally send you a list of all the products, including the screws you need and the design plan. There's kind of this interesting twist on where you can take your products with the online service to try to move out of that hands-on approach and that reliance on people, which you don't control at the store level, so it becomes really difficult, right? So there's
we've had success on house. That's a nice outlet for us.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's a great, and as those things continue to evolve and change, you know, I think there's to have that service on your end still be present. To go back to Angela's question, which in your market, Angela, I think there's such a focus on trust. And I think there's some products that can be bought and boxed up and shipped out. It doesn't matter from where you get them. And then there's other products in other industries that, you know, it needs to, if it comes in a box that's all, the corners are all mushed up and it doesn't look like it's high quality and it looks like it went through the ringer, there's going to be some concern with products in, you know, a medical field or the life science industry because they need to be sterile, they need to be clean. So there's a little bit of kind of that thought process and that experience. So I think Amazon can get into those products, and they will, but there's also that consideration on how it arrives and how it looks and the quality of it. So I'm interested, you know, what is your sense? You're seeing people buy things because of the price on Amazon or because of the delivery time? You know, why are they going that route?
I don't think she knows she's talking.
Oh, yeah, she might.
Angela, are you still there?
You still there with us?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. You know, I'm sorry. I was on mute.
No
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I can't say that we've seen a mass exodus, but we've definitely seen that there is a very big push by Amazon into the space. So I'm just trying to stay ahead of it and keep an eye on it. So to your point, Allison, I think kind of in our space, we all are hoping that's what happens. But at the end of the day, you know, at some point, people start thinking about just dollars and cents. So we're not sure what's going to happen, but just trying to keep an eye on it right now. But they've definitely made a big push to get into, like, be the platform for, if they can just, let's put it this way, we all believe that if they turn one major research institution or one major pharma company, they have some smaller ones, but if they hit some of the big ones and get one of them to move to their platform, we're concerned about what's going to happen then.
Yeah.
So it's not something I think is going to happen tomorrow, but it's definitely something that I think is on the horizon that I'm trying to stay ahead of.
Yeah, and I mean, they're really trying to get to everything they can, and there is that, you know, that economy of scale aspect of it, and it's so interesting to think about how are these pharma companies, how are these medical industries going to react to it, and is it all going to come down to money? And that's where, on your end, I think the proactive aspect has to be all about trust, has to be all about quality, has to be about the difference in how you would deliver it versus an Amazon, and what happens if a package comes and something's broken or something, you know, has been opened or isn't quite the way it should be, and how would you respond versus Amazon, who's not going to really have a different of a response than if a dress came and had a hole in it. You know, it's a very different response because there's a lot more at stake with your product. So I think that's.
But it's interesting to what Josh's point, or what he was brought up earlier, was that you know, it's a double-edged sword, because you talk about the trust, right? And that's very important. So you want, you know, if you have brand recognition, you know, there's that trust. But then all of a sudden, if you allow one of your distribution channels to be an Amazon, and things start to get delivered in a way that's not what the people are accustomed to, then you start to erode that trust. But at the same time, in our space, you have to have trust for people to order from you. So it's that double-edged sword, and that's why I'm just watching this right now, and this was a timely call.
Well, if I may, and then I'm going to quickly, I got to shift to my question, but Angela, I mean, as you, and I'm not sure where exactly you sell your products, but as you and I both know, there's many states within the country that have budget issues, right? And that means impact to universities that may be ordering some of your products. Those guys are having to cut back, significantly, and or either the impacts going into the hospitals. And so when it comes push to shove, are they going to order something that may be $20,000, your way, or are they going to get it for $9.99 from Amazon? That's what you're going to have to track and see. But there's a lot of budgetary issues in many of the states in the country. If I may, Allison, and forgive me for being rude, but I have a 1 o'clock and I'm going to have to rock and roll and get back on the road. And I'm not sure if your background, but one of the questions that I posed to Laura Lee was from, as Amazon has, acquired Whole Foods, right? Talk to me about the impact of real estate, because and the attractiveness of folks wanting to be where the Whole Food stores are, because there's going to be a lot of dynamics. And then secondly, do you see, or have you seen or read where Amazon may have where you can pick up products at Whole Foods, meaning that you're using those as a distribution point to pick up a widescreen TV?
Yes. So I think there's a lot of different things going on. In terms of Whole Foods itself and their actual locations, I don't think you're going to see a lot of changes, because they're not going to allow their brand to be eroded by Amazon per se. What I do think you'll see is Amazon using them as distribution centers, not for pickup, but of additional high-end organic products, which they've really struggled to get into the market with their grocery service with. And so having Whole Foods as a distribution center gives them reach in places where they couldn't get those products for customers, where they couldn't get that fresh product delivered. And so now all of a sudden they can deliver that in a whole array of cities and locations where before they really lacked any of those products. I think the other thing you'll see is Amazon testing a lot of new concepts, such as they already have the Amazon Go, the convenience. They're trying to do the Amazon Fresh grocery service where you can order online and pick up fresh foods in an actual retail location. The bookstores, which you're seeing. There's a couple other things. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. But they have a bunch of brick and mortar concepts that they're in kind of the early stages with. So I think what you'll see is a little bit of integration with those. Clearly the grocery services, they'll pull from the Whole Foods products. Again, with the economies of scale of some of those products on the more organic high-end level that they don't currently carry in their grocery service.
Sorry.
And do you see there being a shift in the real estate strategy through Whole Foods? Because what I see is now that the Whole Food locations, the strip centers or their locations are going to be real sexy, and everybody's going to want to be close to an Amazon, to a Whole Foods, so they'll be catching foot traffic. So I'm coming from a different angle versus having products in the store.
It'll be interesting to watch. Where Whole Foods was going prior to the announcement was more of the small city locations, the 365 locations, more generic products, to hit that kind of millennial, very price conscious shopper. Where I think they'll go now is, to your point, getting into more locations with the larger footprint store, more suburban type of locations, which is where they originally were, and then they were trying to get revenues in a different market. In terms of Amazon and that impact, I don't think Amazon's going to directly impact them opening a ton more of their huge footprint original locations, because Whole Foods kind of had their strategy already laid out. I do think it'll go back to the delivery. And I think both companies will really use it as a distribution hub. Amazon to get those products they couldn't before, and Whole Foods, who struggled with the delivery aspect and never could quite get figuring it out. So I think there'll be more distribution centers, commissaries that are Whole Foods based or part of an Amazon location. So it's not going to be more the very popular entry-level location.
My ringer's off.
Necessarily.
Yeah, because I know in Houston, they've Amazon has built a 100,000 square foot facility, and a part of that is the Amazon Fresh, which I mean they're going to be delivering within 2 hours, which is going to be
and so
very
they're going
aggressive.
yeah, I think that location is going to benefit, you know, hugely from this, because they'll be able to get a lot of those products
Okay.
that they couldn't get before, but now with the buying power from Whole Foods. But I don't necessarily see them open a Whole Foods location in that area. I think more on the back end.
So two more questions. Your thoughts about the Martha Stewart impact, because, you know, they're in a relationship with Amazon. And then secondly, will Amazon be like Walmart, or maybe not, you know, from the perspective that if you're a vendor of Walmart, say a farmer, you know, they'll squeeze the heck out of you. So.
Yes, I think you've seen that. Sorry, I'm just opening up. There was a Fortune magazine article that was talking about this. I was trying to find it quickly for you. But I think you'll see the Walmart effect. You know, like Josh mentioned, there is that squeezing. And if they can't do it on price, they're going to do it with the allowances and with the fees and with everything else until, you know, you're kind of squeezed so thin that you have to decide whether it makes sense for you to stay in the market or not. In terms of Martha Stewart, I think you're going to continue to see a ton of partnerships like this. And the interesting thing is, it's like Martha Stewart, she's at a point where her brand is struggling, or the brand itself is struggling, and trying to find new channels. So for Martha Stewart.
So Snoop Dogg is not enough for her, but go ahead.
It's become a comedy, yeah. But she's looking for new channels for her product and for distribution. So on that end, it's great. It's a whole new market of people that she might not have been reaching, that it's opening the brand up to. It's, you know, I don't know. Is it really going to make or break her brand? I'm not sure. But I think you're going to see a lot of that, and you are seeing a lot of that. It's the Walmart and the Bonobos and everyone kind of looking for how to maximize, you know, this online channel in a different way than just having a website. There's, you know, Amazon's really trying every different aspect they can. They have their own clothing lines. They had their own diaper line, which bombed, and they pulled. They had diapers.com, which they were using, and then they ultimately just rolled into them, you know, the Quidsi, the diapers.com, the wag.com, soap.com, that whole world. So they have enough leverage in the market to create these partnerships. If they don't work, it doesn't hurt Amazon any. It's not, you know, no sweat off their back, but if something sticks, it's great. So they're going to keep trying. I think the flip side is for the brands, you know, it's a real challenge because they could get into Amazon. It could be great, but Amazon could then take that learning and just create their own products, which is what they're doing with the clothing lines, you know, and you're seeing their own private label brands, which a lot of the customers do is actually an Amazon brand and probably never will. You know, you guys are in the industry and you're a little more savvy about a lot of this stuff. And, you know, it's so fascinating to me. So that Amazon just launched their try and home with the clothing, and people in the media were going crazy. And if you think about it, what's any different from having them ship you a box of clothes, you keep it, you try it on, you send back what you don't like, and you just don't get charged till after you decide to keep it. It's, you know, Stitch Fixes of the world have been doing this for years, but also if I buy something on Amazon and I try it on, I don't like it, yeah, I pay up front and then I get refunded my money, but it's not saving me any time or convenience. It's not any new concept. And so I think they're going to keep trying with these things, like repackaging them or remarketing them or messaging them differently, because they're not recreating the wheel. And I think with these brands too, they're not recreating the wheel. They're just trying to, you know, get their brand to stick somewhere else and to expand their reach to this huge Amazon customer. And most of those products, they're probably doing, it's like the outlet store model. They're probably doing their regular products with their brand name, and then they're doing the cheaper version that they're selling on Amazon so that they can sell at a lower price and still get their markup.
Yeah,
Um,
and for me, since we're I'm looking at it from the real estate standpoint, since our clients are either project owners of and or architects or contractors, so I'm looking at the shifts from that market. Any similarities as to what's going on now in comparison to the Sears back in the late 1800s, early I mean, any similarities with that, with Sears and Roebuck?
I think you'll see them getting into everything, and then you'll see them dropping parts of the business, or they're rolling off parts of the business, kind of like what they do with Quidsi. They bought it out, they took the learnings, and they took what they could of the products, and then got rid of it. With Zappos, they've kept so far. I don't know if they ultimately will. You can get most of those products on Amazon now. I don't know how much value there is in that brand anymore. There used to be a huge brand value. I think they've eroded most of that at this point, because you can have the same experience, or in most cases on Amazon. You can research it on Zappos, buy it on Amazon. So all the money's going the same place at the end of the day. But I do think there'll be a lot of things kind of rolled in, different pieces. The service model, they have the Amazon Home now. And then I think you'll see a lot of spin-offs back out. And I'm curious on your end with your experience, are you seeing any impact from the Amazon Home and from the service providers that they're offering?
Not from what we do, no.
Yeah. And that's one of those areas that they're trying to get into and help compete by having that service, or having those pre-vetted contractors and service providers. But that's not the core of their business, and that's not their expertise. As Josh was saying, that's not where they're experts, and they're never going to be. So they're trying to offer it. I don't know that it's actually adding any value for the customers. The customers don't see a seamless experience. And that's the other thing for all of you, I think is really important, is that seamless experience with your company, with your brand, but also your service, because Amazon's cobbling it together. And they have a product sold from one person, and they have a service provided by another, and they have the delivery through another. It's all different people trying to work together, which is a lot of operations and management, versus Josh with your business, it's much more seamless. Or Mickey with yours, exactly who's going to come and install it if you're offering that through your service. The customer at the end and who they're going to call if something goes wrong. So you're managing all those aspects of it when it's going direct from you. Once it's on Amazon, they're managing that, but through different people, all who have to be paid from different outlets. So operationally, it's kind of a nightmare on the back end. And the customers do see that, they're not getting that integrated experience, one person managing it all.
Okay, super. I gotta go.
It was nice to speak to you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone, I know we only have a few more minutes, does anyone else have other questions, concerns, things they wanted to ask the group?
I did have one other question.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a lot of consumers now are starting their shopping on Amazon rather than when they used to start it with maybe a Google search or something more generic like that.
Yes.
Is there anything you see that the industry can do to kind of change that back and get people away from that shopping is always on Amazon kind of mentality?
Great.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that's kind of where people go for their research now, as opposed to Google. They go to Amazon, they read the reviews, and then they decide what they're going to do. I think a lot of it is the upfront marketing and staying top of mind with your customers. And that doesn't have to be expensive marketing campaigns, but I think it's the social media, it's the reminders, it's the constant follow-up, the constant, especially for Josh and Mickey, the how is everything going? Do you need us to service anything? Is everything installed properly? Just a reminder that, maybe you bought a bike stand for 1 or 2 products, but now as you're getting into it, maybe you have 3 or 4 and you should upgrade to a bigger model. Finding reasons to communicate with them constantly. So they might go to Amazon to research what's out there in terms of products, but they come back to you because they remember that you're there. And I think that's crucial in this environment. You need them to always remember that you are there and that you're, available, and that you're the trigger for them to buy something, not that it pops into their head, oh, I need to buy, some product I forgot. So it's that, oh, I was on my Facebook page and something popped up and I was thinking about it. And if you can get them to avoid going to Amazon, if it's on your Facebook page, you can get them to buy right from there because they know your brand and they've seen it and you're in that constant communication. Or same with Pinterest or Instagram or wherever it may be that your customer is. I think that's huge, Angela. For someone like you, I think it's that constant replenishment. I think you can go that angle. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different messaging to your customers. But again, you want to always be top of mind with them and make it easy and convenient, because we do have this Amazon Prime effect where people expect things at the snap of a finger to arrive at their doorstep. So if you can take that research piece out for them and provide them that expertise in that research, and it's a little bit of a subtle in their face, but that reminder for them, then it's like, oh, I'm just going to click right here and I never even have to take that extra step of going to learn more or to look at pricing. And it's just one less thing for your customer to think about, and it goes direct to you. So, that's my biggest suggestion. The other one, and a really interesting company to look at, is Giggle. It's a children's product company. And what they used to do, as soon as one of their products came up on Amazon, they would stop selling it because they just didn't want that apples to apples comparison. And if it was a product they'd have to have, they had the buying power, which a lot of small businesses don't have. But they would go to the company, they'd go to the stroller company and say, we're selling X number of this stroller. Amazon just started selling it. We want to sell it, but we want it in a color that's only available to us. And so they might get, the neon pink or whatever the hot color was at the moment, but then they'd go out and they'd push that out through all their marketing channels, all their social media, say, hey, you can get this on Amazon, but you can only get this color from us. And this is the hot color. This is what everybody wants this year. Here's what it is. And you can't compare and price them because it's not something you can get elsewhere. It's a special, special designer, whatever color, unique item only available, but you also can push it out and kind of be a little in your face because it's different, it's unique, but you can also limited time, whatever it may be. And I think that's the other thing, is creating that urgency through your marketing, that there's a reason they have to buy now, they have to buy today with whatever you're offering. And it's not necessarily price, but special service option with it, a special guarantee, a special add-on. Maybe you're trying to get rid of a product, but you can add it on in the bundle, but they have to get it before it's gone, and create a little bit of that urgency for them so they don't take that extra step again and they just go direct to you.
Well, Allison, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So much for your time. We are right at 2:00 Eastern time. If anybody has any, last minute questions that you want to get in, feel free to share. We can take this conversation into the online community. I don't want to volunteer up your contact information, Allison, but if there are follow-up questions.
Yeah, feel free. You're all welcome to email me. It's Laura can give you my email, but it's Allison, ALYSON, @retailconcepts.com. And I'm happy to answer questions or send other thoughts or resources if anyone has anything else.
Great. Yeah, and Allison, she has participated as a panelist for our growth plan presentations in the past, so she has an understanding of the types of goals that you've set in your program and can really kind of help you out within that framework as well.
I would also mention, I'm certainly willing to help anybody with the whole Amazon Marketplace or Amazon. You can, I don't know if my information shows up, but if anybody needs to reach me, my email is jogden@mygearup.com. And I feel like I'm kind of an expert because we jumped in on the marketplace when it started. And I can tell you all the good and the bad and the ugly about it from a lot of different perspectives. So
that's great.
Okay. And hi, this is Lori Wall. I've been the silent listener here all along. Hi, Laura. Just real quick, and this is the very tail end of this. I missed the very beginning. I was on another conference call. But we're using Amazon only to really sell some of our used demo products. I'm an ergonomic office furniture and accessory provider. So I do some ergonomic mice, keyboards, document holders, some various miscellaneous stuff. So that's the only really way I've sold Amazon, and we've sold some things and basically recovered our cost on it. That's about all I'm really doing with it. But I'm wondering if anyone has, Allison, if you have any experience. We're doing something a little bit different maybe than a lot of companies, in that we are dealing with major companies that are using online procurement e-card systems where we're punching in, our catalog's getting punched out within their world. So their employees go into their procurement system, they punch out into our catalog, they buy, the shopping cart goes back to their procurement system. So that's what we're doing. But one program we're looking at, and this is kind of the question, if you have any experience with anything called SAP Ariba Spot Buy program, if that's a name you've heard before. We just agreed to be a spot buyer, a spot buy seller, which means anybody within the Ariba world that has vendor relationships and are buying on Ariba can now shop our catalog, even though we don't have a contract with them. So it gives them the ability to go out and spot buy, but be within the Ariba world. And we were just working through, we haven't even got it up and running yet, but we were just advised that Amazon is now a spot buy seller as well. So I'm like, oh crap, now I gotta compete against Amazon within the spot buy. So is that something you've heard anything of? Or I would think the same kind of concepts that apply to buying from Amazon would apply, that to the extent you make it an easy accessible, you provide better service, easier returns. I assume all of those principles would still apply, but I don't know how to get out of that price competition. I mean, a mouse is a mouse, whether you get it from me or someone else. I don't know how to add value into that relationship, where when I'm selling through other relationships, I feel we add value to it. So that's my struggle. And
that's a very good question. I have not had any clients who have worked with that, though. I think you're correct that it's all the same things, and then it's trying to find how you can add that value when you're removed from the picture a little bit, and how you compete when it's not just on price. And I think some of that has to be a little bit on brand and building your brand elsewhere, so it's recognizable and people know, but then it's also available via other sellers. So you get into a little bit of a bind there, and it goes back to what Angela was saying, it's that circle of you have to build the trust, but then you don't want it eroded because someone else is selling it cheaper. So it is a challenge. Josh, do you have any insights? I feel like your world is.
Can I jump in there? This is Angela again. Lori, what I'm seeing in the pharma life science space is Amazon is okay. So they may be doing it there, becoming part of the Ariba platform, joining the Ariba platform. But what they're ultimately trying to do is overtake it. So they want to move Ariba out, and they want to be the platform, and that's what they're trying to do.
Interesting. Yeah,
it's a learning experience, and we're relatively new in the sense of our e-commerce site just launched a year ago, so we're still trying to figure out how do we market, and basically I'm thinking the intent is to capture our clients that have agreements with us and have a resource they can shop us. I'm not really looking to gain new business outside of it, but we are getting a fair amount of business from non-current clients, which is good. So new clients. But this whole Ariba and the whole spot buy on Amazon, I've got to cut my prices to maintain the business I'm getting, which is I'm getting lower margins than I'm used to getting. But if I don't do it, I'm going to lose the business. So it's like, how low do you want to go? And that's ongoing challenge I think we're all going to face.
Yeah, and I'm sure Josh has experience with this, but when we were on the marketplace and years ago, as soon as Amazon identifies a top seller, they take it from you.
Yeah.
And
I get so many calls. Oh, well, Amazon, we can buy it for this amount. So we've
But
actually
they will literally
met
take your
Amazon price
customers.
a couple clients, but you know, it cuts me into a 19, 18 margin where I'm used to getting 25 to 30, you know.
Right, and that's where it goes back a little bit to, and what you were saying up front, I think is really smart, just selling your, the samples or the warehouse models or the, the pieces that you just need to get rid of that you're not using anymore. But if you can really differentiate what you're selling on there, I think is one way, and things that only you have because maybe you haven't released it into the wholesale world yet, or perhaps you have a new version that you're coming out with, so that again it doesn't have that comparison. They might have the top seller with your last year's version, but you have something different, so there's a little bit of that hard to compare factor. But it does get difficult because you lose a little bit of control if someone already has your product. You can't really pull it. You don't have that option. But I think the more you can try to do that and to be selling different direct from you than from what other people are selling. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I'll be talking
I
later
would say
date.
the one thing that I know is going to be a continuous challenge, and we've had to learn to adapt, is the insight of your distribution, and to really, as a wholesaler, and someone concerned with the image of our brand, is just making sure that we can control as much as possible in the distribution of our products and our brands. And it kind of changes the way, in some ways, you do business. And it's longer term, that's really one of the only ways you can combat the Amazon effect, is to make sure that your distribution is happening in a manner that you see strategically as the best for your pricing and margins, etc.
Yes, I think that's.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Laurie.
No, yeah. I mean, that's part of the challenge.
It is.
It's comments.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'm really glad that this has been a valuable conversation for everybody on the call, and that everybody's had a chance to really ask questions and share experiences. And we've gotten a couple email addresses, but I am more than happy to connect you all as a group too. I think I may do that unless anybody objects to having their email address shared. But I think it's a really good group to continue having this conversation. I would love to see it continue.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone's comments and input.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you.
Allison.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye.